Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas and you're watching Empire Building. Do you like watching renovation shows?
We made it to the finish line!
It's amazing!
It's so amazing to see it all come together. And kitchen.
This came together.
Wrap around court.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I'm pretty handy. I bet I could buy a fixer-upper and flip it for a bunch of money? I know that's what I thought when I bought my first flip. Here's the truth that they don't tell you about house flipping on TV. I am going to disclose all of the gritty details and show you all of the mistakes and the lessons I learned from them. I'm going to share with you all of the true costs, including all the ones that are never disclosed on your favorite television shows. So stick around, and I guarantee you that no matter how much experience you have, you're bound to learn something from watching this video. So hit that like button and subscribe, and sit back and let's get on with the video. I found this house in January of 2019, and the existing homeowner was a hoarder. And the house had been in foreclosure for a number of years, and the bank had recently reduced the price and accepted an offer of $285,000. But the sale still had to be approved by the court, which was to happen in a couple of days. I decided to enter an offer of $295,000, but the bank wasn't interested in my offer. So I had to appear in court to make sure that my offer was heard by the judge. The judge decided that the only fair decision was to make both of us resubmit our best offer, and whoever wins gets the house. Before heading to the courtroom, I had already determined what my maximum offer would be. So I was prepared for this. I knew that the maximum price I could offer and still make a profit was $300,000. Realizing that the other buyer might actually do the same, I decided to put in an offer of $300,001.
And Patricia.
$751.
$751. John.
$752, Drew.
$752. $939. John, come on up here.
I mean, who hasn't seen The Price is Right? As it turned out, my opponent offered $295,000. The house was mine. The judge determined that the closing date would be February 28th. There was another reality that I was now forced to deal with. The existing owner, as I mentioned, was a hoarder, but he also suffered from limited mobility. I decided that it was in my best interest to assist him in removing the garbage from his house while he focused on packing the belongings that he wished to keep. He decided that he would keep whatever he could fit inside one sea container that he would take with him out to Vancouver Island. Sounds simple enough. Well, I had never actually watched any of those hoarding television shows from start to finish, so I wasn't really prepared for what would happen next.
On this side yard, it's proven to be difficult already. She's wanted to keep a lot of obvious trash and things that have been sitting back here for years, dilapidated by the rain, the heat, and the weather, so it's already going slow and not making a lot of sense.
With the help of some of his friends and his son, we were able to fill one garbage container filled with primarily garbage from the sunroom of his house. At this point, he had 1 month to work through the rest of his house, and now at least he had one clear space to use as a staging area while he packed. It should come as no surprise that when possession day finally came, very little had changed, if anything at all. The sea container that he was to put all of his belongings in looked like this on the day I took possession. Still, willing to be patient with him, I went straight to work. He had to make some difficult decisions to abandon the bulk of his belongings and focus only on what was most important. Due to the sheer volume of stuff he had in his house, I ordered a second bin, and within 3 days, we had the entire house cleared out and had begun demolition work. He was forced to let go of the bulk of his belongings, and it was a very difficult thing for me to go through, so I can only imagine what it was like for him, considering his condition. Now, obviously there was nothing in these items that were of any real value, and if there was, we put it aside and gave him the opportunity to either sell them or keep them. Again, I decided to allow him to continue packing his things into the container while we worked inside the house. The weeks and months progressed, as did the work on the house. For the most part, things progressed on schedule, but as you can imagine, there were some things that arose that we did not anticipate. Here's a breakdown of the numbers. Starting with a purchase price of $300,001, next we had pre-construction soft costs of $5,470. This covers items like insurance, property taxes, and legal costs. Post-completion costs such as real estate fees and staging costs were budgeted at $21,900. Next, there was $1,400 for engineering and permits, $15,500 for the cost of borrowing, $16,150 for general conditions. This covers basic items like general labor, garbage disposal, consumables, small tools, and other miscellaneous costs. Then we have $4,000 for site work, $17,500 for wood and carpentry, $11,000 for exterior repairs and improvements, $19,600 for windows and doors, $24,328 on finishes, $6,000 for appliances, $11,400 on mechanical, and $6,500 for electrical. This brought the total project budget to $460,749. As the project progressed, we quickly began to realize that we needed to go deeper than we originally intended. Walls needed to be relocated. We had intended to utilize the deck structure of the sunroom and convert it into an elevated deck with a pergola. Upon closer inspection, once all the garbage had been removed, it became clear that the structure was not up to code and therefore could not be utilized. Undeterred, we pressed on and began the work of putting everything back together again. The main kitchen and living area was being opened up completely, and the span supported by an engineered beam that would be completely concealed inside the attic. The furnace had to be replaced with a high-efficiency furnace, and the venting redirected through the walls and into the attic and out through the roof, along with the venting for a high-efficiency water heater. The Blair Witch Project-inspired basement bathroom was completely demolished and resized, and all the underslab drainage was replaced. And then we also installed a backwater valve to protect the basement from any sewer backup from the city main line. Winter was now nearly over, and as the snow melted, it became clear that the roof was in far worse condition than we realized. And not only that, it was a delightful green color. We had to bite the bullet and not only replace the roof on the house, but also on the garage and the storage shed. Work from here progressed rapidly, and the house began to come together. It wasn't until this time that the previous owner had finally completed removing his items from the garage, and the sea container was finally removed from site. Only a week before we completed the renovation. Now by this time we realized that we were so far into this that we needed to do something special to attract the best buyers. So we upgraded the appliance package to give the house that real high-end look. And now for the big unveiling. With the extra work that we encountered, we completed the reno by the first weekend in June, 2 weeks behind schedule, but all things considered, pace of the work went well. We were now ready to list. The response from the neighboring residents was overwhelmingly positive. I had many of them come up to me and shake my hand for the work I had done. After looking at the market for comparable houses, we found that a house of similar build quality but slightly larger in size had just sold for $620,000. The only difference being that it had an extra bathroom and an extra 150 square feet. We decided to list the house for $554,900. The viewings poured in and we were sure we had a winner on our hands. But we didn't get any offers. Very little in the way of negative feedback. Some said that they had a desire for an ensuite bathroom. After 5 weeks, we started to see a pattern developing with all the other houses that had been listed about the same time. The list prices were all dropping. After talking to other investors in the market, it became clear that the problem was widespread. Average number of days on the market was climbing, and buyers just weren't turning up. We were forced to follow suit and drop the price twice, all the way down to $515,000. Still, no offers. This is when we discovered some important lessons. The house we purchased was a corner lot on a 4-way stop. It was not an overly busy intersection, but it did have a bus route on both sides. This was widely regarded as a negative for the property, and the lack of ensuite also proved to be a deterrent as well. After 4 months on the market, we still had no offers. Costs were piling up, so a new exit strategy was needed. This is one important thing I did prepare for. You must always have more than one exit strategy for any real estate project you take on. Never be forced to sell at a loss. The buyer's market may have been dry, but the rental market for high-end houses was very strong. I was able to find a suitable renter within 2 weeks, and they moved in November 1st. Another important factor was my financing. This project was 100% financed, so I used none of my own money. And it just so happens that the lender was a childhood friend of mine. Our agreement was the interest on the loan would be accrued until the sale of the house, and he would also get a portion of the profits once the sale was finalized. Considering the house never sold, the conditions of our agreement needed to be renegotiated. In my case, the relationship with the lender was very strong, and this can be the advantage of using friendly public lenders as opposed to banks. Banks do not care about your individual circumstances. All they care about is their money, and they'll walk all over you if it's in their interest to do so. We agreed to rent the house out for $2,200 a month and cap the accrued interest at $25,000, still payable upon the sale of the house. The interest payments would be $2,000 a month, leaving me with $200 a month. But as the homeowner, I was also responsible for covering the cost of insurance of about $120 a month, leaving me with $80 a month positive cash flow. The actual final cost for each item came in like so. Insurance and property taxes increased substantially due to the extended time that we were forced to hold on to the property, which also increased the cost for staging the house. Engineering and permits came in a little under budget, but the cost of borrowing was substantially more than was planned. But remember that cost was accrued, so it's not out of pocket. General conditions took a little more from the bottom line because of a basement foundation water leak that was discovered and needed to be repaired. Wood and carpentry was a little over, and the new roof ballooned the cost for exterior repairs. The cost for windows was underestimated, and the budget for appliances was increased to attract buyers. Mechanical costs were a little over as a result of additional HVAC work, but the cost was offset by savings realized in the electrical line item. Overall, the project went over budget by $38,866. It is important to point out, however, that within that budget are costs that haven't been realized yet. The house never sold, so the budgeted real estate commission of $18,400 did not need to be paid, as well as $700 for legal costs, and of course the $25,000 of interest that was accrued. Now obviously this was not an ideal outcome for this project, but it's important to point out that I still own the house, and it still puts $80 in my pocket every month. That makes it an asset, and I never actually put any of my own money into the project. I did, however, put a great deal of time and effort in, but there's always a risk in any venture. In this case, the story's not over yet. The market can always recover and we can try again. Also, as it turns out, the current tenants love the house. They're just not in a position where they could actually purchase it. But this opens the door to the possibility of doing a lease to own with these tenants, which would allow them to purchase the house at a later date while paying into a down payment monthly while they live in the house. I can walk through the details of that in a future video, but this would save me the cost of the real estate commission as well as improve the cash flow of the property. The most important takeaway that I wanted to impart in this video is that you must always have multiple exit strategies. Make sure you always maintain control of the property and never put yourself in a position where you are forced to sell at a loss. Real estate, in my opinion, is the most powerful and flexible investment vehicle that there is. The options and tools that are at your disposal are almost limitless. Even bad deals can be made into good ones as long as you're educated in what your options are. I will revisit this case in the future and show you how it turned out. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Remember to like and share the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I come back with regular videos about all things empire building, and this channel is just getting started. Thanks for watching, Now, let's get back to empire building.